The City of Easthampton recently passed a Welcoming Cities Ordinance, which means city employees cannot ask about a person's immigration status unless required by law. Cities across the country and right here in Massachusetts have passed similar measures, but not without controversy as the nation grapples with illegal immigration and what to do about it. Carolee McGrath sat down with Easthampton City Councilors Peg Conniff and Homar to get their perspective.
So the ordinance really is around how the city behaves with informing on when they find out that a person is undocumented. So whether they are coming to get a job, and we understand that they are unable to get the job because they don't have the proper documentation, this ordinance will forbid or restrict the personnel department from notifying ICE that they have discovered this information about an individual. Similarly, the police will not entertain the optional warrants that ICE puts out when they find out that an individual has been detained for some reason by the police. ICE information goes into the database. ICE will find out that that person is undocumented, but absent any other crime, the police do not and will not notify ICE to come and pick that person up or to have that person detained longer than whatever the penalty is for why they were detained in the first place.
Okay, but that is also something that's under state law anyway because
Correct.
of the Supreme Court ruling, Commonwealth versus Lund. So this ordinance didn't really add anything to what the police are already prohibited from
Correct.
doing.
Correct, and we have, the police chief for the last year and a half has voiced that this is how they were behaving anyway. What we added to it was the behavior of the city employees that don't have that same codification on how they behave. So really this is about making it universal and a statement to the residents of Easthampton that regardless of your immigration status, you can go about your life here and particularly report crime, or if you've been a victim or if you have witnessed a crime, you can feel comfortable that you will not be detained because you are undocumented.
Okay, why was this important to you?
To me?
Yes.
Because we're going to be more safe. As a citizen of Easthampton, I think it's really important for us to pass something like this because that way everybody can report a crime, including our neighbors. You know, if you have a neighbor, you don't know if they're documented or not. So having these tools for them permit that people can report a crime. I think that's really important for me. What is really important for me too is because the majority of the people in Massachusetts they don't have any documentation. They're Latinos, and I'm Puerto Rican. Of course, I'm a citizen of the state, but we speak the same language. And I think it's really important for them to know that they're safe in our city, that they have space in our city, and we think about them too. Okay,
you had made a comment that this really makes a statement. More than anything, it's sort of a political statement. And some people would say, well, listen, isn't every city welcoming? Why do you have to go that extra mile, you know, to come up with this ordinance in the first place?
And people have said that in the last week. And I would just say that, you know, from a police perspective, certainly this is how they behave. I think what we are saying is that as a city, we are codifying this, we are spreading this across the school employees, the municipal employees. We're not just focusing on the police because we know that that is settled law right now. What we're saying is that as a community, we are reaching out to those who are undocumented and we are telling them that as a community, we have your backs and we believe that you can go about your life in this city without fear. Now, as I say that, they have a significant amount of fear. This is only just a small sliver of what we're trying to mitigate of the fear that they live with every day. But what we're trying to say is that Easthampton is a place where you can feel like you do not have to look behind your back just for working, just for having your child go to school. We want them to feel like they can take their kids to school, register their kids for school, and that the school system itself will not then take that information and use it in a negative way. So for me, it's more about how the municipal employees behave than about the police themselves.
Okay, this is different than the sanctuary city proposal that was started a few years ago. And that proposal in particular, and just the idea of a sanctuary city, really gets people pretty fired up who are against this proposal, that kind of proposal across the country, really, because people will say, look, it doesn't make people safe. It makes people unsafe. If police can't share information and they don't, know who's in the city or in their jurisdiction, they should be able to do their jobs. A little bit different because of Massachusetts law, but explain the difference with this proposal as opposed to the sanctuary city initiative that had been desired.
So sanctuary city as a term is not real. It doesn't have a definition. It's really kind of a inflammatory word out there. People use it however they want to use it, but it doesn't have a set definition. 2 years ago, when this first came up, it was shortly after the current administration took office. There was a lot of emotion in the country, and people within the city council and the city really felt like we had to make a statement about immigration and folks who were undocumented, because there was just a lot of vitriol around that. So when we started it, and I was not actually a part of the original ordinance that was brought forth, admittedly, it was not brought forth in a way that was well organized and thought out. It was more emotional from my perspective. And subsequently, as it kind of made it through its various iterations, it just created a lot of inflammatory feelings in the city. And so ultimately, when we finally brought it again back to the city attorney last year, he was like, yeah, the city council doesn't have this authority to tell the employees how to behave. So subsequently, it's kind of worked its way through where we are today. But sanctuary city as a term, you are correct. It evokes a lot of emotions. This is not, sanctuary city to me evokes something of protecting criminals. We're not doing that. Right. If you commit a crime, you're going to be arrested. Doesn't matter what your immigration status is, because being undocumented is not criminal. So you can't be arrested just for being undocumented. It's not a criminal offense. You can be penalized, and the penalty may be deportation, but it's not a criminal offense that the police need to spend their time on. So we want the resources of Easthampton to spend their time on things that affect Easthampton, not federal activities that are the responsibility of the federal government.
But no matter what, they're still going after people, who are committing crimes. Because I think what you mentioned is a very good point. A lot of people will think of a sanctuary city or anything in that realm and say, wait a second, crime is going to go up. You look at San Francisco, where there were some pretty high-profile cases, tragic cases, where an illegal immigrant, committed a murder. I mean, that was one case several years ago. So this conjures up a lot of different feelings. How can you talk to people, who disagree with you, perhaps maybe on immigration policy in the United States, that this is the way to go and does truly make people more settled and secure in Easthampton?
I'm going to start saying that it doesn't matter what we're going to do, someone is going to disagree with what we're going to do, one way or the other. The conversation that I can start with everybody is like, what happens if someone is committing a crime to yourself, doing something to yourself really bad, and the witness that is looking this doesn't have any documentation, and they're afraid to report it. With the tool that we're giving them now, give the opportunity to that person, their witness of the crime, to report the crime without any fears. So we're not, like Councilor Conniff said, we're not protecting any criminals. We are going the other way. We want everybody to commit a crime to be reported to the police. That's what we're looking for.
Significant amounts of data exist around crime and criminal activity, including murder, rape, assault, by both undocumented and documented, or us. And the rate of violent crime on a per capita basis is significantly higher for those of us who were born here. The amount of crime that is of a dangerous nature that is committed by undocumented immigrants, significantly low, almost half. And that data has been done by a lot of conservative think tanks, so this is not coming from the left versus the right. This is just studies that the Pew Research Committee has done that indicate that violent crime, because undocumented immigrants just want to live, they're not looking for attention, they're not looking to get into any trouble, they've already been they've escaped trouble. They just want to live here now. Many of them came here legally. They either came as a direct result of a business visa or a school visa, and those have expired. So their original entry...
Which is a different topic altogether, or a big topic altogether,
Yep.
because when ICE was originally initiated, it was after 9/11, and it was post 9/11, and the reason why it was there was so that local, state, and federal could share information because dots were not connected, and that's a big issue.
Yeah, I would agree. My point being that all of that I'll let somebody else worry about. I'm worried about Easthampton and the people that are there now. And we can argue forever how they got there. And if they got there illegally, different story, and I'm not going to touch that. They're here now. And those are the people that we care about. They're in our community, they're going to school, they're going to church, they're sitting right next to us. And we should treat them with the respect and the care that we treat anyone else in the city. And we will let those who are much smarter than I and the rest of the federal government figure out the rest of it. We're just worried about our environment, and we think that everyone deserves a chance to be safe and to feel comfortable there.